How far can you push trust before it shatters? What happens when your husband's suspicions turn into a legal ambush, and you're the one left holding divorce papers at your desk? The night I swore was innocent ended with my whole life at stake. The downtown bistro hummed with conversation and clinking glasses as I adjusted my red dress for the third time. Tonight was my 34th birthday, and I deserved to feel special. Simon sat across from me, his jaw tight as he watched Kellen Drake slide into the seat beside me. "Happy birthday, beautiful," Kellen said, his hand briefly touching my shoulder. The warmth of his fingers sent a flutter through me that I hadn't felt in years. "You look absolutely stunning tonight." Simon's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Thanks for joining us, Kellen." "Wouldn't miss it," Kellen replied, his green eyes sparkling as he looked at me. "Ivanthy's been talking about this dinner for weeks." My sister Lauren arrived with her usual dramatic flair, followed by my coworker Dina and a few other friends. The table filled quickly, but I noticed how Kellen managed to position himself so close to me that our arms brushed whenever he reached for his wine glass. "So Kellen," Helen, Simon's mother, said from across the table, her sharp eyes narrowing slightly, "how do you know Ivanthy?" "We work together," I answered quickly. "Kellen just transferred to our department last month." "Actually," Kellen corrected with a charming smile, "I specifically requested the transfer. Ivanthy has quite the reputation around the office." Simon's knuckles whitened around his water glass. "What kind of reputation?" "The best kind," Kellen laughed, his hand finding my knee under the table. "Everyone knows she's the one who gets things done, smart, beautiful, and incredibly dedicated." I felt my cheeks flush with pleasure. When was the last time Simon had complimented me like that? When was the last time he'd even really looked at me? "Daddy, why do you look angry?" 7-year-old Laya asked from her booster seat, her innocent eyes darting between Simon and Kellen. "I'm not angry, sweetheart," Simon said, but his voice was strained. "Just tired from work." "You're always tired from work," I muttered, then immediately felt guilty when Laya's face fell. Kellen squeezed my knee gently. "Well, I think your mum deserves to be celebrated properly. She works incredibly hard." "Here, here," Dina raised her glass, "to Ivanthy, who puts up with all of us every day." As the group toasted, I caught Simon staring at Kellen's hand, which was still resting on my knee. I should have moved it, I knew I should have, but the attention felt so good, so validating, after months of feeling invisible in my own marriage. "Simon, you're being awfully quiet," Lauren observed. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Simon replied curtly. "Just observing." "Observing what?" I laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Your wife having a good time on her birthday?" "Among other things." The tension at the table was becoming palpable. Martin, Simon's father, cleared his throat. "So, Kellen, what do you do exactly?" "Marketing coordinator," Kellen replied smoothly. "Though I have to say, working with Ivanthy has been the highlight of the position. She's taught me so much about the company culture." His thumb traced a small circle on my knee, and I felt my breath catch. This was harmless flirting, nothing more. Simon was just being paranoid and jealous, like always. "Maybe we should order dessert," Helen suggested, but her eyes were fixed on me with obvious disapproval. "Great idea," I said, leaning slightly into Kellen as I reached for the dessert menu. "What do you think looks good?" "Everything looks good from where I'm sitting," Kellen murmured, just loud enough for Simon to hear. Simon abruptly pushed back from the table. "I need some air." "Simon," I called after him, but he was already walking toward the exit. "Let him go," Loren said dismissively. "He's been in a mood all week." "Has he?" Kellen asked with genuine concern. "Is everything all right at home?" "Everything's fine," I insisted, though my stomach was churning with guilt and something else I didn't want to name. "Simon just gets like this sometimes. He's very protective." "Possessive is more like it," Dina added. "Honestly, Ivanthy, you can't even have a conversation with another man without him getting all weird." "That's not true," I protested weakly. But even as I said it, I wondered if there was some truth to it. Kellen's hand moved slightly higher on my thigh. Well, for what it's worth, I think you deserve to be appreciated. Some men don't realize what they have until it's too late. The words sent a shiver down my spine. Was that what was happening? Was Simon taking me for granted? Was I becoming invisible in my own life? When Simon returned to the table 10 minutes later, his face was composed but cold. He barely spoke for the rest of the evening, even when the waiter brought out a small birthday cake with sparklers. "Make a wish, Mummy," Laya said excitedly. I closed my eyes and made a wish I immediately regretted. When I opened them, Simon was watching me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hurt, but something far more dangerous: resignation. As we gathered our things to leave, Kellen helped me with my coat, his hands lingering on my shoulders. "Thank you for including me tonight," he said softly. "I hope we can do this again soon." "I'd like that," I replied before I could stop myself. Simon heard every word. In the car ride home, with Laya chattering about the sparklers in the back seat, he didn't say a single word to me. But I caught him watching me in the rearview mirror, and for the first time in years, I felt like he was really seeing me. I just wasn't sure I liked what he saw. The next morning, I woke up alone. Simon's side of the bed was cold, and I could hear the shower running in the guest bathroom. He'd slept on the couch again. This had been happening more frequently over the past few weeks, ever since Kellen had started at our office. Simon claimed he was just having trouble sleeping, but I knew better. He was pulling away from me, and instead of trying to fix whatever was wrong between us, he was choosing to sulk. "Daddy slept on the couch again," Laya announced when I found her eating cereal at the kitchen table. "How do you know that?" I asked, pouring myself coffee with hands that shook slightly. "I got up to get water and saw him there. He looked sad." Guilt twisted in my stomach. "Sometimes grown-ups just need space to think, sweetheart. Are you and Daddy getting divorced?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "Why would you ask that?" "Because Tommy's parents got divorced, and his mum said it started with his dad sleeping on the couch." Before I could respond, Simon walked into the kitchen, fully dressed for work. He kissed Laya's forehead, but barely glanced at me. "I'll pick Laya up from school today," he said. "I'm working from home this afternoon." "Why?" I asked. "I can get her. I want to spend time with my daughter." The emphasis on "my" wasn't lost on me. "She's our daughter, Simon." He finally looked at me, and the coldness in his eyes made me step back. "Is she? Because lately I'm not sure what's mine and what's just borrowed." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Figure it out, Ivanthy." After he left, I sat at the kitchen table feeling hollow. My phone buzzed with a text from Kellen. "Hope you enjoyed your birthday dinner. You looked beautiful last night." I should have deleted it immediately. Instead, I found myself typing back, "Thank you. It was a wonderful evening." His response came quickly. "Would love to take you to lunch today, just the two of us." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "I can't. Too much work." But even as I sent it, I was already imagining what it would feel like to have lunch with someone who actually wanted to spend time with me. At work, Dina immediately cornered me by the coffee machine. "So, last night was interesting," she said with a knowing smirk. "Simon looked like he wanted to murder Kellen." "He was just being paranoid," I replied, but the words felt hollow. "Paranoid about what? You having a normal conversation with an attractive man?" "It wasn't like that." "Wasn't it?" Dina raised an eyebrow. "Because from where I was sitting, it looked like Kellen was very interested in you. And honestly, good for you. When was the last time Simon made you feel special?" I couldn't answer because I couldn't remember. "You deserve to feel appreciated, Ivanthy. If Simon can't see what an amazing woman he has, maybe someone else should." "I'm married, Dina." "So, that doesn't mean you have to be invisible. A little harmless flirting never hurt anyone." But it didn't feel harmless. It felt dangerous and exciting and wrong all at the same time. Around noon, Kellen appeared at my desk with 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need a caffeine boost," he said, setting one down in front of me. "Thank you, but you didn't have to." I wanted to. He perched on the edge of my desk, close enough that I could smell his cologne. "How are things at home? You seemed a little tense last night." "Everything's fine," I lied. "Is it? Because if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. I know what it's like to feel unappreciated." "What do you mean?" "My ex-wife used to make me feel like I was never enough. Nothing I did was right. It's a terrible way to live." His words hit too close to home. "I don't feel unappreciated." "Don't you?" His green eyes searched my face. "When was the last time Simon really listened to you? When was the last time he made you laugh?" I opened my mouth to defend my husband, but no words came. "You're an incredible woman, Ivanthy. You deserve someone who sees that." Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving me staring at the coffee cup and wondering when my marriage had become something I needed to defend instead of celebrate. That evening, Simon was already home when I arrived, helping Laya with her homework at the kitchen table. They looked up when I walked in, and for a moment, we almost looked like a normal family. "How was school, baby?" I asked, kissing Laya's head. "Good. Daddy helped me with my math. He's really good at explaining things." "Yes, he is," I agreed, catching Simon's eye. For a moment, his expression softened. "How was work?" he asked quietly. "Busy, the usual." I hesitated, then added, "I missed you this morning. We barely talked." "We barely talk anymore, period." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" He closed Laya's math book. "When was the last time we had a real conversation? About something other than schedules and bills and who's picking up Laya?" I tried to remember and realized I couldn't. "Laya, why don't you go watch TV for a bit?" Simon suggested. "Mommy and I need to talk." Once we were alone, Simon leaned back in his chair and studied me. "I found something today." My heart stopped. "What?" He pulled out a small notebook and opened it. I could see dates and times written in his careful handwriting. "What is that?" "A record," he said simply, "of all the times you've mentioned Kellen in the past month, of all the late nights at work, of all the times you've come home smelling like cologne that isn't mine." "Simon, that's crazy. You're keeping notes on me." "Am I crazy, Ivanthy? Because from where I'm sitting, my wife is having an emotional affair with her coworker, and I'm the only one pretending not to see it. That's ridiculous. Kellen and I are just friends." "Friends don't look at each other the way you two were looking at each other last night. You're being paranoid." "Am I? Then explain this." He flipped to a page in his notebook. "Last Tuesday you said you were working late. I called your office at 7:30. You weren't there." My mouth went dry. I must have stepped out. "For 3 hours. I went to grab dinner." "Alone?" The question hung in the air between us like a blade. I wanted to lie, but something in his eyes stopped me. "No," I whispered. "Kellen and I grabbed a quick bite. We were working on a project." "What project?" "The Morrison account." The Morrison account was completed 2 weeks ago. I felt the walls closing in around me. "Simon, you're making this into something it's not." "What is it then, Ivanthy? Because from where I'm sitting, my wife is lying to me about spending time with another man. What would you call that?" "I call it having a friend." "Do you hold hands with all your friends?" "What?" "Last night at dinner, under the table, I saw everything." The guilt crashed over me like a wave. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to me. The pain in his voice was almost unbearable. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Simon, please. You're my husband. You're the father of my child. Kellen is just what? Just someone who makes me feel good about myself." The words were out before I could stop them, and I watched something die in Simon's eyes. "And I don't. That's not what I meant." "Yes, it is." He closed the notebook and stood up. "That's exactly what you meant." He walked toward the door, then stopped. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight, and tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. Simon, wait. Please, we can work this out. He turned back to me, and the man looking back wasn't the same person I'd married 8 years ago. Can we, Ivanthy? Because I don't think you want to. After he left, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the notebook he'd left behind. I opened it and read page after page of carefully documented evidence of my betrayal. Dates, times, observations, all written in the neat handwriting of a man who'd been watching his marriage die in real time. My phone buzzed. A text from Kellen. Thinking about you. Hope everything's okay at home. This time I did delete it, but it was already too late. The next morning, Simon's mother called before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. We need to talk, Helen said without preamble. Martin and I are coming over this afternoon. Helen, I don't think... This isn't a request, Ivanthy. We'll be there at 2. The line went dead, leaving me staring at the phone. Simon had told them. Of course he had. The Merrow family had always been close, sometimes suffocatingly so. They circled the wagons when one of their own was threatened, and apparently I was the threat. I called in sick to work, ignoring 3 texts from Kellen asking if I was okay. Instead, I spent the morning cleaning the house obsessively, as if having perfect baseboards would somehow make this conversation easier. Lorraine arrived first, sweeping into my living room like a protective hurricane. I came as soon as I got your message, she said, pulling me into a fierce hug. Simon's parents are coming here? What right do they have to ambush you in your own home? They're not ambushing me. They're concerned about their son. Their son is being a paranoid control freak, Lorraine snapped. You're allowed to have friends, Ivanthy. You're allowed to have a life outside of this marriage. It's not that simple. Isn't it? You had dinner with a coworker. You've had a few friendly conversations. Simon is acting like you're having some torrid affair. I couldn't meet her eyes. Maybe I should have been more careful. Careful of what? Living your life? Feeling good about yourself? Lauren grabbed my shoulders. Listen to me. You have done nothing wrong. Simon is insecure and controlling, and now he's getting his parents involved to gang up on you. Don't let them make you feel guilty for being a normal human being. When the doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock, my stomach dropped to my feet. Helen and Martin stood on my doorstep, their faces grim. Helen pushed past me without waiting for an invitation. Where's Simon? She asked. At work. He doesn't know you're coming. Good, Helen said, settling into my favorite chair like she owned it. This conversation is between us. Martin looked uncomfortable but took a seat on the couch. Lauren positioned herself beside me like a bodyguard. I'll get straight to the point, Helen began. Are you having an affair? No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. But you're involved with someone. I'm not involved with anyone. I have a friend at work. That's all. Helen's laugh was bitter. A friend who puts his hands on you in public. A friend you lie to your husband about. I haven't lied about anything. Really? Because Simon says you've been dishonest about your whereabouts multiple times. Lauren leaned forward. With all due respect, Mrs. Merrow, Simon doesn't own Ivanthy. She's allowed to have lunch with whoever she wants without reporting her every move. Not when she's married to my son, Helen shot back. Not when there's a child involved. Laya has nothing to do with this, I protested. Doesn't she? Because according to Simon, she's been asking if you're getting divorced. 7-year-olds don't ask those questions unless they're seeing things that worry them. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. Laya is fine. Is she? Or are you so caught up in your midlife crisis that you're not paying attention to what this is doing to your family? That's enough, Lauren snapped. You have no right to come into Ivanthy's home and attack her like this. I have every right to protect my son and granddaughter. From what? From Ivanthy having a friend? From Ivanthy destroying her marriage for some office romance? The words hung in the air like poison. Martin finally spoke up, his voice gentle but firm. Ivanthy, we're not here to attack you. We're here because we love our family, and that includes you. But we're watching Simon fall apart, and we're watching Laya get caught in the middle. If there's something going on, we need to address it before it gets worse. There's nothing going on, I insisted, but even I could hear how weak it sounded. Then why won't you look me in the eye when you say that? Helen asked. I forced myself to meet her gaze. Because you've already decided I'm guilty. Nothing I say will change your mind. Try me. Fine. Yes, I have a friend at work named Kellen. Yes, we've had lunch together a few times. Yes, he's attractive and charming and makes me feel good about myself. But I'm not having an affair. I have never been unfaithful to Simon, physically or emotionally. But you want to be. The accusation hit its mark because it was true. I did want to be. I wanted to feel desired and appreciated and special. I wanted someone to look at me the way Kellen did, like I was worth pursuing. What I want doesn't matter, I said finally. I'm married. I have a daughter. I would never do anything to hurt my family. You already are hurting your family, Helen said quietly. Simon barely sleeps. He's distracted at work. He started asking us about custody laws. My blood turned to ice. Custody laws? He's protecting himself, Ivanthy. And honestly, I don't blame him. Lauren stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're all acting like Ivanthy committed some terrible crime. She had dinner with a friend. She's had a few conversations. If Simon is so insecure that he can't handle his wife having a social life, maybe he's the problem. The problem, Helen said, rising to face Lauren, is that my daughter-in-law is emotionally checking out of her marriage and everyone is pretending it's normal. Maybe she's checking out because Simon isn't giving her what she needs. And what is it she needs? Constant validation from other men. She needs to feel valued and appreciated, which clearly isn't happening at home. I watched the two women argue about my life like I wasn't even there, and suddenly I felt exhausted. This was exactly what Simon had been trying to avoid. This was why he'd been pulling away, why he'd been documenting everything, why he'd been sleeping on the couch. He'd seen this coming long before I had. Stop, I said quietly. When they continued arguing, I raised my voice. Stop. The room fell silent. This isn't helping anyone, I said. Helen, I understand you're trying to protect Simon. Lauren, I appreciate you defending me, but this isn't about taking sides. This is about my marriage, and my marriage is in trouble. Because Simon is being unreasonable, Lauren insisted. No, I said, the words tasting like ash. Because I am. Helen's expression softened slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe I have been emotionally checking out. Maybe I have been seeking validation from someone else instead of working on my marriage. Maybe Simon has every right to be concerned. Ivanthy, Lauren warned, don't let them guilt you into... They're not guilting me into anything. They're making me face the truth. I looked at Helen, then at Martin. I love Simon. I love my daughter. And I'm going to fix this. How? Helen asked. By ending my friendship with Kellen. By being completely transparent with Simon. By fighting for my marriage instead of running away from it. Helen nodded slowly. And if it's too late? The question terrified me, but I forced myself to answer. Then I'll have to live with the consequences. After they left, Lauren stayed behind, pacing my living room like a caged animal. I can't believe you just threw yourself under the bus like that, she said. You basically admitted to having an affair. I admitted to making mistakes. What mistakes? Having a friend? Feeling good about yourself? Lying to my husband? Seeking emotional intimacy with another man? Putting my marriage at risk for someone I barely know? You're being too hard on yourself. Am I? Or am I finally being honest? My phone buzzed with a text from Kellen. Missed you at work today. Everything okay? I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. But as I was putting my phone away, another message came through. I know things are complicated at home. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Always. I should have deleted that one too. Instead, I found myself typing. Can we meet somewhere private? I need to explain what's happening. His response was immediate. Of course. When and where? I suggested a small cafe across town, somewhere I'd never been with Simon. As soon as I sent the message, I knew I was making another mistake. But I told myself I needed closure. I needed to explain to Kellen why we couldn't be friends anymore. I told myself a lot of things that night. None of them were true. The next morning, I called in sick again and drove to the small cafe where I'd arranged to meet Kellen. My hands shook as I ordered coffee, and I jumped every time the door chimed with a new customer. When Kellen walked in, looking concerned and handsome in his navy blue suit, I felt that familiar flutter in my stomach. He spotted me in the corner booth and smiled, and for a moment I forgot why I was there. "You look stressed," he said, sliding in across from me. "What's going on?" "Everything's falling apart," I admitted. "Simon knows about us." "Knows what about us? We haven't done anything wrong." "Haven't we?" I met his eyes. "Be honest, Kellen, this isn't just friendship, is it?" He was quiet for a long moment, then reached across the table to take my hand. "No, it's not. At least not for me." The admission sent electricity through me. "We can't do this. I'm married. I have a daughter." "I know, and if you tell me to walk away, I will. But Ivanthy, I've never felt this way about anyone before. The connection we have, it's real." "It doesn't matter if it's real. It's wrong." "Is it? You're unhappy in your marriage. Simon doesn't appreciate you. He doesn't see how incredible you are." "You don't know Simon. I know he makes you feel invisible. I know you light up when we're together in a way you never do when you talk about him." He was right, and that terrified me. "I can't leave my family." "I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you not to shut me out completely. We can be careful. We can take things slow." "Take what's slow? Kellen, we can't have a relationship, any kind of relationship." "Why not?" "Because Simon says so, because his family says so." His grip on my hand tightened. "You deserve to be happy, Ivanthy. You deserve to be with someone who sees your worth." I wanted to pull my hand away, but it felt so good to be touched with tenderness instead of suspicion. "I should go," I said, but I didn't move. "Stay, please." "Just for a little while." "When was the last time you had a conversation with someone who actually listened to you?" So I stayed. For 2 hours, we talked about everything and nothing. He told me about his divorce, about how lonely he'd been before meeting me. I told him about the early days of my marriage, about how Simon and I had grown apart without either of us noticing. When he walked me to my car, he stopped me with a gentle hand on my arm. "I know this is complicated," he said, "but I care about you too much to just walk away. If you need space, I'll give it to you. But if you change your mind—" He leaned down and kissed my cheek, so close to my mouth that I could feel his breath on my lips. I drove home in a daze, my skin still tingling where he'd touched me. I told myself it was just a friendly kiss, that nothing had really happened. But deep down, I knew I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. When I got home, Simon was waiting in the kitchen with his laptop open and a stack of papers beside him. "How was the dentist?" he asked without looking up. My stomach dropped. "What?" "Your dentist appointment. How did it go?" I'd forgotten about the lie I'd told Dina to cover for my absence. "Oh, fine. Just a cleaning." "That's funny," Simon said, finally meeting my eyes. "Because I called Dr. Peterson's office an hour ago. You don't have an appointment until next month." The blood drained from my face. I must have mixed up the dates. "Must have." He closed the laptop with deliberate calm. "So where were you, really?" "I told you I was sick. I stayed home." "No, you didn't. I came home for lunch. The car was gone." I felt trapped, cornered like an animal. "I went to the store." "Which store?" "The grocery store." "Show me the receipt." "I didn't buy anything. I needed to get out of the house." Simon nodded slowly, like he was confirming something he already knew. "And you drove around for 3 hours?" "I went to a cafe. I needed to think." "Which cafe?" "I don't remember the name." Convenient. He opened his laptop again and turned the screen toward me. It showed a map with a red dot marking a location across town. "What is this?" I asked, though I was already afraid I knew. "GPS tracking from your phone. You were at Moonbeam Cafe on Elm Street for 2 hours and 15 minutes. My mouth went dry. "You're tracking my phone?" "I'm tracking my wife, who's been lying to me for weeks." "Simon, this is crazy. You can't just—" "Can't what? Try to figure out where my wife goes when she lies about her whereabouts? Can't try to understand why she's meeting another man in secret?" "How do you know I was meeting someone?" The question slipped out before I could stop it, and I watched Simon's face crumble. "Because I called the cafe," he said quietly. "I described you to the manager. She remembered you. She also remembered the man you were with. Tall, dark hair, very attentive. She thought you were a lovely couple." I felt like I was drowning. "Simon, it's not what you think." "What do I think, Ivanthy?" "You think I'm having an affair." "Are you?" The question hung between us like a blade. I wanted to say no, wanted to deny everything, but the words wouldn't come. "I don't know," I whispered. Simon's face went completely white. "You don't know? I mean, we've never—" "Never what? Never kissed? Never touched? Never told each other how you feel?" Each question hit its mark because each one was true. We had kissed, even if it was just on the cheek. We had touched, even if it was just holding hands. We had talked about our feelings, even if we hadn't acted on them completely. "Simon, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How my wife has been lying to me for weeks? How she's been meeting another man behind my back? How she's been emotionally cheating on me and pretending it's innocent?" "It is innocent." "Innocent?" His voice rose for the first time. "You lied about where you were going. You lied about who you were with. You deleted his messages. You've been hiding this relationship from everyone who matters to you. What part of that sounds innocent?" I had no answer because he was right. Every single thing he'd said was true. "I want you to stop seeing him," Simon said. "I can't just stop working with him. I want you to transfer departments or find a new job. I don't care which. You can't ask me to give up my career because you're paranoid." "I'm not paranoid." The words exploded out of him. "I'm a husband who's watching his wife fall in love with someone else." The accusation hit me like a physical blow because I couldn't deny it. I was falling in love with Kellen. Maybe I already had fallen in love with him. "Simon," I said, reaching for his hand. "I love you. I love our family." He pulled away from my touch. "But you love him too." I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. "That's what I thought," Simon said. He gathered his papers and laptop. "I'll be staying at my parents' house tonight. I need time to think." "What about Laya?" "What about her? Are you planning to bring him around our daughter?" "Of course not." "Then she'll be fine with you for one night. But Ivanthy—" He stopped at the door. "This ends now. Whatever this is with Kellen, it ends now. Because if it doesn't, our marriage will." After he left, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at my phone. Kellen had sent 3 messages since our coffee date, each one more concerned than the last. I should have ignored them. I should have blocked his number. I should have done 100 different things. Instead, I called him. "Ivanthy, are you okay? You sound upset." "Simon knows," I said. "He knows everything." "How?" "He tracked my phone. He called the cafe. He's been documenting everything for weeks." There was a long pause. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. He wants me to stop seeing you completely." "And what do you want?" It was the question I'd been avoiding, the one I was too afraid to answer honestly. "I want to be happy," I whispered. "Then be happy. You have a choice here, Ivanthy. You can let Simon control your life, or you can choose what's best for you." "What about Laya?" "Kids are resilient, she'll adjust, and she deserves to see her mother happy instead of trapped in a loveless marriage." His words made sense in a way that terrified me. Maybe I did deserve to be happy. Maybe I did deserve to be with someone who appreciated me. "I need time to think," I said. "Take all the time you need. But remember, life is short. Don't waste it being miserable. After I hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and tried to imagine my life without Simon. It should have been terrifying, but instead, it felt like possibility. I was so lost in thought that I almost missed the sound of a car in the driveway. I looked out the window and saw Simon's car, but he wasn't getting out. He was just sitting there, staring at the house, our house, the home we'd built together. For a moment, I thought about running outside, about begging him to come back in so we could talk. But then my phone buzzed with another message from Kellen, and I found myself reading it instead of going to my husband. By the time I looked up again, Simon's car was gone. I woke up the next morning to the sound of Laya crying. She was standing in the doorway of my bedroom in her pajamas, tears streaming down her face. "Where's Daddy?" she sobbed. "Why didn't he come home?" I pulled her into bed with me, my heart breaking at the confusion in her voice. "Daddy had to stay at Grandma and Grandpa's house last night. He'll be back soon." "Are you getting divorced?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. "Why do you keep asking that, sweetheart?" "Because Emma's parents got divorced, and her dad moved out first. Then they had to go to court and everything." I held her tighter, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Daddy and I are just working through some grown-up problems. It doesn't mean we're getting divorced." But even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. Simon came home while I was getting Laya ready for school. He looked like he hadn't slept, his hair messy and his clothes wrinkled. But his eyes were clear and determined in a way that made my stomach clench. "Daddy!" Laya threw herself into his arms and I watched his face soften as he held her. "Hey, baby girl, I missed you." "I missed you too. Are you coming home tonight?" "We'll see," he said, catching my eye over her head. "Why don't you go brush your teeth? I need to talk to Mommy." After Laya left, Simon turned to me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold. Professional. Distant. "I've made some decisions," he said. "Simon, please. Can we just talk about this? We're past talking, Ivanthy. You had your chance to be honest with me, and you chose to lie instead." I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, and now we have to deal with the consequences. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and set it on the kitchen counter. "What is that?" I asked, though I was afraid I already knew. "Divorce papers, and a temporary custody agreement." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Simon, no, please, we can work this out." "Can we?" "Because I don't see how. You're in love with another man, Ivanthy. You admitted it yourself." "I never said I was in love with him." "You didn't have to. It's written all over your face every time his name comes up." I wanted to deny it, but the words stuck in my throat. "I've also frozen our joint accounts," Simon continued in that same calm, professional tone. "And I've contacted a lawyer about getting primary custody of Laya. You can't take my daughter away from me." "I can if I can prove you're an unfit mother." "I'm not an unfit mother." "Aren't you? You're having an emotional affair. You're lying to your family. You're putting your own desires ahead of your daughter's well-being." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When was the last time you helped Laya with her homework? When was the last time you asked her about her day without being distracted by your phone?" The accusation stung because they held just enough truth to hurt. "I'm a good mother," I said weakly. "You were a good mother. Now you're a woman having a midlife crisis who's forgotten what matters." Laya came back into the kitchen, her backpack slung over her shoulder. "I'm ready for school." "I'll drive you," Simon said, taking her hand. "Can Mommy come too?" "Not today, sweetheart. Mommy has to go to work." After they left, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the divorce papers. The legal language was cold and clinical, reducing 8 years of marriage to a list of assets and custody arrangements. I called in sick to work again, knowing I couldn't face Kellen or Dina or anyone else who might ask questions. Instead, I spent the morning on the phone with Lauren, who was predictably outraged. "He can't just freeze your accounts," she said. "That's financial abuse." "Is it? They're joint accounts. Technically, he has every right. You need to fight this, Ivanthy. You need to get your own lawyer. With what money? He's frozen everything. I'll lend you money. This is ridiculous. Simon is trying to punish you for having feelings. Maybe I deserve to be punished. Don't say that, you haven't done anything wrong. But I had done something wrong. I'd betrayed my husband's trust. I'd lied to my family. I'd put my marriage at risk for someone I'd known for less than 2 months. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Kellen. Dina told me you called in sick again. Are you okay? No, I said, and then I was crying. Simon filed for divorce. He's trying to take Laya away from me. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to come over? No. Yes, I don't know. I'm coming over. We'll figure this out together. Kellen, if Simon finds out you were at my house, let me worry about Simon. You need someone right now, and I'm not going to let you go through this alone. He arrived 20 minutes later with coffee and pastries from the bakery downtown. I fell into his arms the moment he walked through the door, and for the first time in days I felt safe. This is all my fault, I sobbed into his chest. I've ruined everything. You haven't ruined anything. You fell in love. That's not a crime. I'm married. I have a child. You're also human. You have needs and desires and the right to be happy. He held me on the couch while I cried, stroking my hair and whispering reassurances. When I finally calmed down, he tilted my chin up to look at him. I know this is scary, he said, but maybe this is the universe telling you it's time for a fresh start. What do you mean? Maybe this is your chance to build the life you actually want instead of the one you settled for. Before I could respond, he kissed me. Not on the cheek this time, but on the lips, soft and gentle and full of promise. I should have pulled away. I should have stopped him. Instead, I kissed him back. When we broke apart, I felt like I was drowning and flying at the same time. I can't do this, I whispered. Yes, you can. You deserve to be loved, Ivanthy. You deserve to be happy. What about Laya? She'll understand when she's older, and she'll have 2 parents who love her, even if they're not together. Simon will never forgive me. Simon already hasn't forgiven you. The marriage is over, sweetheart. The question now is what you're going to do with your freedom. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking about the future. Kellen painted pictures of weekend trips and quiet dinners and lazy Sunday mornings. He made it sound so easy, so natural, so right. When he left that evening, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was my chance for a fresh start. I was so caught up in the fantasy that I almost missed the sound of a car in the driveway. I looked out the window and saw Simon's car, but this time he wasn't alone. There was another car behind him, and 2 people in suits were getting out. My blood turned to ice as I realized what was happening. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find Simon standing there, with a woman in a navy suit and a man with a briefcase. Ivanthy Miro? The woman asked. Yes. You're being served with divorce papers and a restraining order. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises. I stared at the papers in shock. A restraining order? On what grounds? Adultery and child endangerment, Simon said quietly. I have evidence that you brought your affair partner into our home while our daughter was at school. My knees nearly gave out. How could you possibly know that? Simon held up his phone, and I saw a photo of Kellen's car in our driveway, time-stamped from that afternoon. Security cameras, he said. I had them installed yesterday. I looked at the papers in my hands, then at Simon's face. The man I'd married, the father of my child, was looking at me like I was a stranger. Simon, please, we can work this out. No, Ivanthy, we can't. You made your choice. As I watched him walk away, I realized he was right. I had made my choice, and I was about to learn exactly what that choice would cost me.